The Galactic Council was in chaos. For centuries, they had been the rulers of the galaxy, powerful and wise. They had united hundreds of species, built vast fleets, and maintained peace. But now, everything was falling apart. An enemy had appeared, one they couldn't defeat. This enemy wasn't like anything the galaxy had seen before. They came without warning, destroying entire star systems in days. Their ships were massive and terrifying, with weapons that could pierce the strongest shields. The Galactic Council's fleets, proud and unmatched for centuries, were no match. Every time they sent ships to fight, only a handful returned, battered and broken. On the central planet of the Council, the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species gathered. The Grand Hall, usually a place of calm debate, was filled with shouting. "This is madness," roared Chancellor Varric, a towering reptilian being. "We have lost over 50 systems in just 1 month. If this continues, none of us will survive." Elder Rin, a wise and ancient being with glowing blue eyes, tried to speak calmly. "We must stay united. Panic will not save us. We need a plan." "A plan," snapped Ambassador Grell, a bird-like creature with sharp talons. "Every plan we've tried has failed. Our fleets are useless against this enemy. Our weapons barely scratch them. Do you have a better idea, Elder?" The hall fell silent. No one had an answer. The enemy's ships were too strong, their numbers too vast. Every tactic the Council tried had failed. Even their most advanced technologies couldn't match the enemy's power. In the corner of the hall, Commander Kale, a grizzled veteran of many battles, stood quietly. He had fought against the enemy and seen their power up close. He had lost half his fleet in one battle and barely escaped alive. "They are not invincible," Kale finally said, his voice firm. "But we are fighting them the wrong way. Our fleets were built for defense, for maintaining order in the galaxy. This enemy doesn't care about order. They only care about destruction." "Then what do you suggest, Commander?" asked Chancellor Varric. Kale hesitated. He knew his suggestion would not be popular. "We need someone who fights like them. Someone unpredictable. Someone who doesn't play by our rules." The room erupted in anger. "Are you suggesting what I think you are?" Ambassador Grell shouted. "You want us to call the humans, those savages." Humans were a controversial topic in the galaxy. They had been invited to join the Council centuries ago, but had refused. They preferred to stay on their own, isolated on their small blue planet. Other species considered them reckless and dangerous. They fought wars among themselves, destroyed their own planet's resources, and seemed to thrive on chaos. But humans were also known for their resilience. They had survived disasters that would have wiped out other species. They were clever, adaptable, and fiercely determined. "Yes," Kale said firmly. "We need the humans. They think differently than us. They fight differently. If anyone can find a way to stop this enemy, it's them." The room fell into uneasy silence. Finally, Elder Rin spoke. "The humans have stayed away from us for a long time. Even if we ask for their help, there's no guarantee they'll agree." "They will agree," Kale said, "because they won't see this as just our fight. They'll see it as a challenge, and humans never back down from a challenge." After a long debate, the Council reluctantly agreed. A team was sent to Earth to ask for help. Some of the ambassadors were furious, while others were too scared to argue. As the meeting ended, Elder Ren looked out at the stars. "The galaxy is in danger," he whispered, "and our only hope lies with the one species we swore we would never need." Far away on Earth, humanity was unaware of the chaos spreading across the galaxy. But they were about to receive a call that would change everything. For centuries, humans had been alone in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had offered them a seat among the stars, but humans had refused. They had their reasons. Earth was their home, and they wanted no part in the politics of the galaxy. The other species didn't understand them, and the humans didn't care to be understood. Humans were different. They were young compared to the ancient species of the galaxy, but they had something no one else did: determination. Where other species saw problems, humans saw challenges. Where others saw limits, humans saw possibilities. They had survived wars, natural disasters, and even near extinction. And despite all that, they had thrived. The galaxy had watched from afar, thinking humans were reckless, primitive, and wild. Some species thought they would eventually destroy themselves. Others believed that Earth was just another planet that would burn out in time. But they were wrong. In secret, humans were busy building. They were advancing in ways the galaxy had never imagined. Hidden in the vast oceans of their planet, deep underground, and in space, humanity worked without anyone noticing. They developed powerful technologies, built massive warships, and trained soldiers who could survive in the harshest conditions. They didn't rely on the Council for help. They relied on themselves. When the Galactic Council sent its message, begging for help, humanity was shocked. They had been left alone for so long. No one had bothered to contact them in years. To be honest, humans had almost forgotten about the rest of the galaxy. They had their own problems to deal with: wars on their planet, political unrest, and environmental challenges. But the message was clear. The galaxy was in trouble, and they needed humans. President Alina Roberts stood before the Council of Earth, reading the message from the Galactic Council. She had heard rumors about the Council's troubles, but she hadn't imagined they would come to Earth for help. "What do we do?" asked General Michael Harris, a seasoned leader of the Earth Defense Force. He was known for his tough exterior, but even he seemed uncertain. "We do what we always do," Alina said, her voice calm but firm. "We fight. We help, but on our terms." The room fell silent. The idea of working with the Galactic Council wasn't a popular one. Many people on Earth still remembered the way the Council had treated them: ignored, dismissed, and left alone. The Council had never once asked for humanity's help when they faced their own challenges. Why should they help now? But there was something about the situation that made Alina pause. The Council was desperate. They had failed, and now they had come to Earth, to humans, who they had once considered nothing more than a footnote in the galaxy's history. "We can't just turn our backs on them," Alina said, her eyes narrowing. "If they lose, it will be a disaster for everyone. We're not just doing this for them. We're doing it for us. If the enemy wins, no one is safe." General Harris nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. He had been in enough battles to know that sometimes you didn't have the luxury of picking sides. You just had to do what was necessary. "We can't do it the way they do," Harris said, his voice low. "They think in fleets and armies, but we think differently. We're smarter, faster. We don't play by their rules, and that's how we'll win." Alina smiled. "Exactly. The Council wants help, but they don't get to dictate how we do things. We'll help them, on our terms." It wasn't long before humanity began preparing for the war. Ships were built, soldiers trained, and resources gathered. Earth's best engineers worked day and night to modify their technology, making it stronger, faster, and more efficient. The world came together, despite their differences, to face the challenge that lay ahead. But not everyone was ready to trust the Council. There were many who felt betrayed, who thought that Earth should remain isolated, far from the politics of the galaxy. They saw the Council as weak and unworthy of their help. But Alina knew something that the rest of the galaxy did not. Humans were stronger than anyone realized. And now, with the threat hanging over them all, it was time for humanity to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The message to the Galactic Council was simple: "We will help, but we do it our way. We fight on our terms. And if you don't like it, you can find someone else to save you." It was a bold move. But Alina was certain that humanity's unique approach to war, unpredictable, fierce, and relentless, was exactly what the galaxy needed. As Earth prepared for battle, the people of the galaxy watched in silence. They had never seen humans fight like this, and soon they would understand just how dangerous it was to underestimate them. The Galactic Council waited in anxious silence as the human fleet prepared to arrive. The council members sat in their grand hall, each species too proud or too scared to admit that they had no other choice. They had begged for help, and now it was time to face the consequences of their desperation. Chancellor Varric, the massive reptilian leader of the council, paced nervously. His scales glistened in the light, but his mind was troubled. What if humans were just as unpredictable as the rumors said? What if they refused to help, or worse, took control of the entire galaxy? "There's no turning back now," Varric said to the others, his voice deep and full of concern. "We need them. We will negotiate, but we must be careful. They are not like us. We can't trust them completely. Trust is a luxury we don't have." Ambassador Grell, the sharp-taloned bird-like creature, replied, "We have to make this deal with caution. They've never wanted to be part of the galaxy. What makes us think they will help us now?" "You forget," Elder Rin said softly, his ancient voice carrying wisdom. "Humans don't act out of fear. They act out of pride. They will do this not because we asked, but because they want to show us their strength." Despite Rin's calming words, doubt lingered in the air. The Council had underestimated humans for centuries, and now they feared the consequences of that mistake. Across the galaxy, on Earth, President Alina Roberts stood in front of her team, preparing for the final stage of their negotiations. The Council had sent an envoy, a group of ambassadors to speak on behalf of the galaxy's ruling powers. They were expected to land on Earth in a matter of hours. Alina knew this moment would change everything for humanity. She had no illusions about the Council's true motives. They didn't see humans as equals. They saw them as a tool to be used. But Alina wasn't about to let Earth be manipulated. She wasn't about to let humanity be just another pawn in a game that didn't belong to them. "We need to be strong," Alina told her team. "We don't beg. We don't beg anyone. We're going into this with our heads held high, and we're going to make them understand that they need us more than we need them." General Michael Harris stood beside her, his military experience clear in his posture. "We'll show them that our way of fighting is different. They'll be lucky to survive if we do this our way." The humans were ready, but the Galactic Council was nervous. As the human delegation arrived, the air was thick with tension. The leaders of the council stood waiting, staring at the sleek ships that descended slowly toward the planet's surface. When the human ships landed, there was no grand greeting, no parade. The humans came with no fanfare. They walked into the council chambers dressed in simple, practical uniforms, but their presence was commanding. Alina and Harris were at the front, their eyes sharp and determined. The council members stood in front of them, their postures formal, but their minds racing. "Welcome to Earth," Alina said calmly. "You asked for our help, and here we are. But let's be clear, this is not a one-sided favor. We're not your servants. We don't do things your way. You came to us because you failed. Now we will show you how to win." Her words were simple, but they hit hard. The council was used to giving orders, not receiving them. But in this moment, they understood. Humans were not like them. The pride and strength in Alina's voice made it clear that this would be a partnership, but not one where they would dominate. Chancellor Varric stepped forward, trying to maintain control of the situation. "We understand your terms, President Roberts," he said, his voice thick with tension. "But this is a war, not a game. We don't have time for pride." Alina's eyes met his. "This is not a game, Chancellor. This is survival. If you want to win, you'll need to understand that humans don't play by the rules you're used to. We fight differently. We think differently. And that's why we're here." Ambassador Grell, still unsure about humans, leaned in to whisper to the Chancellor, "Are we sure we can trust them?" Varric paused, his eyes scanning Alina and her team. He knew the answer. "We have no choice." The humans were strong, clever, and unafraid. They could help, but only if the Council agreed to let them fight on their terms. "Let's get one thing straight," Elena said, her voice steady and confident. "We'll help you defeat this enemy, but we'll do it our way. If you want our fleets, our soldiers, our technology, then you follow our rules. We take command, and we make the decisions. Otherwise, you'll be on your own." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had no other options. Despite their pride, despite their past dismissals of humanity, they knew that Earth's help was their only chance. Finally, Chancellor Varric nodded. "We accept. We will do things your way. But know this, President Roberts, this is not a sign of weakness. This is a sign of our willingness to do whatever it takes to survive." Elena smiled. "That's all we need to hear." As the deal was made, the galaxy's fate shifted. The humans were in control now, and the Galactic Council had no choice but to follow their lead. The enemy had underestimated humanity's power, and soon they would learn that underestimating humans was the last mistake they'd ever make. The moment the deal was made, humanity swung into action. The Galactic Council had agreed to their terms, and now it was time for Earth to show the galaxy just what they were capable of. There was no more waiting around. The humans had a mission to complete, and they would not fail. President Elena Roberts stood in her office, looking at the massive screens that showed the progress of humanity's preparations. Every corner of the Earth was involved, every country, every city. There was no room for mistakes. Every soldier, engineer, and scientist was working day and night to get the planet ready for war. The stakes were higher than they had ever been before. The entire galaxy's future rested on their shoulders. General Michael Harris was at the forefront of the military operations. His job was to make sure the human forces were ready for anything. The enemy might have underestimated humanity's strength, but now they would see how powerful and determined humans could be when they had a cause. "General Harris," a young officer said, walking into the command room, "we're ready to begin training the new recruits. They're eager, but they need guidance. We have to teach them fast. We can't afford to waste time." Harris turned to look at the officer. "Give them the best training we have. Show them the human way. We don't play fair. We don't follow the rules. But we win. And that's all that matters. They'll have to fight harder, think faster, and never give up. Because that's how we win." The officer nodded. And with that, the training began. Earth's military was already one of the most powerful in the galaxy, but now they had to prepare for something new. They would face enemies the likes of which they had never seen before, aliens with technology far beyond their own. But humans were quick learners. They would adapt. As the soldiers trained, Earth's engineers worked tirelessly on their fleet. The ships were massive, far bigger and more advanced than any the galaxy had ever seen. There was no shortage of resources, no lack of creativity. Humans could make anything work if they put their minds to it. They had learned how to survive on their own planet for centuries, and now they would take that knowledge to the stars. In secret laboratories, Earth's brightest minds worked on new weapons. Weapons that were designed to level the playing field. Weapons that could pierce through the toughest armor, destroy the strongest shields, and break the will of even the most ruthless enemies. Humans had always relied on their ingenuity, and now that ingenuity would be their greatest weapon. "We have to make sure we have the advantage," Elena said during a meeting with her top military advisors. "We don't know what the enemy will throw at us, but we do know one thing. They won't expect us to fight the way we do. We'll use that to our advantage. We'll hit them where it hurts." The advisors nodded in agreement. They knew Elena was right. The human way of fighting was unpredictable. Where others relied on pure power, humans used strategy, deception, and cleverness. And now they would show the galaxy that those things were just as deadly as any weapon. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watched as their military forces prepared for war. People who had never imagined fighting on an intergalactic scale were suddenly part of something much bigger. The sense of unity on Earth was overwhelming. It didn't matter where people came from or what language they spoke. They were all part of the same mission now. They were all part of the same fight for survival. In every corner of Earth, there was a feeling of hope, mixed with fear. The humans knew they had no choice but to succeed. If they failed, the galaxy would fall, and they would all be wiped out. But they also knew they had something the other species didn't have: a reason to fight. They had the will to survive, the strength to protect their home, and the pride to show the galaxy they could win. The final stages of preparation came quickly. Soldiers were deployed to training camps, engineers worked around the clock, and the world's leaders met regularly to make sure everything was running smoothly. They were all in this together, and they knew that if they failed, it would not just be a failure for Earth, it would be a failure for every living thing in the galaxy. General Harris stood on the deck of one of the new warships, watching as the fleet assembled. The massive ships, gleaming in the light of the nearby sun, were a symbol of humanity's strength. It was a sight that would send fear through the hearts of anyone who dared to challenge Earth. "We're ready," Harris said, looking out at the ships. "Now we just have to show them what we can do." Helena stood beside him, her gaze focused on the ships as well. "We're ready to fight, and we'll win, because we're human. And when humans fight, they never stop." As the humans prepared to leave for the galaxy's front lines, one thing was certain: the enemy would not know what hit them. The battle had only just begun, but Earth was ready. And the galaxy would soon learn that the humans were a force they could not ignore. The day had finally arrived. Earth's fleet was ready. The humans were ready. The galaxy was about to witness the true power of humanity, and the battle for survival was about to begin. President Elena Roberts stood on the command bridge of the flagship, watching as Earth's fleet assembled in the vast expanse of space. The stars were a cold, distant reminder of how far they had come, and how much they had to lose. "General Harris, report," Elena said calmly, her eyes never leaving the screens ahead. "We're in position, Madam President. All ships are ready for the attack. The enemy forces are in range. We can strike whenever you give the word." General Harris replied, his voice steady, but with a hint of excitement. The time had come. The humans were no longer observers in the galaxy's fight for survival. They were the ones leading the charge. Elena nodded. "Give the order. It's time to show the galaxy who we are." On the other side of the battlefield, the enemy, an alliance of alien forces who had terrorized the galaxy for years, had no idea what was coming. They had spent their time underestimating humanity, thinking that Earth's defenses were weak and that they would easily crush the humans like they had crushed so many other civilizations before. But the galaxy had forgotten one thing: humans were not like other species. "Prepare to fire," General Harris shouted, his voice carrying through the comm system. The ships rumbled as they activated their weapons, powerful energy blasts charging up and ready to fire. The first shot rang out, a blast of energy so powerful that it lit up the darkness of space. It struck the enemy's lead ship, piercing its shield like a hot knife through butter. The ship exploded in a burst of light, its crew too shocked to react. The humans had arrived, and they weren't holding back. The enemy quickly regrouped, firing their own weapons, but they were no match for Earth's defenses. The humans had spent months preparing, building new technologies, perfecting their strategies. Every ship in Earth's fleet was equipped with the best weapons, the strongest shields, and the most advanced tactics. The aliens had their technology, but the humans had something they didn't: determination. "We've breached their outer defenses," one of the officers on the bridge reported. "The enemy is falling back." Elena's eyes flickered with a hint of a smile. This was exactly what she had hoped for. The humans were quick, clever, and relentless. They were pushing the aliens back, one ship at a time. The battle raged on, each side exchanging fire in a deadly dance of light and death. But the humans were not afraid. They were not intimidated. They fought with everything they had: every ship, every soldier, every weapon. Everything was on the line. and they knew they would not fail. In the heart of the battlefield, General Harris stood at the front of his ship, giving orders and keeping his focus sharp. Don't let up. Hit them with everything we've got. Take out their main command ship. The humans were relentless. Each blast from Earth's fleet sent shockwaves through the enemy lines. The alien ships crumbled under the force of the attack, their shields breaking apart as if they were made of paper. The humans were proving their strength, and the aliens were starting to panic. "Retreat," one of the alien commanders shouted through the comms. But it was too late. The humans were already closing in. There would be no escape. On Earth, every human who had been watching the battle on their screens cheered as their fleet took control of the battlefield. News broadcasts showed the images of the battle unfolding, and the people of Earth saw their soldiers fighting with all their might. The entire planet was united in this moment. No one could ignore the strength of humanity now. "Command ship is down," a voice on the bridge shouted. "We've won. The enemy is retreating." A cheer erupted across Earth's fleet, but Elena remained calm. The battle wasn't over yet. There was still much to do. The humans had won this round, but the galaxy had seen how strong they were. Now it was time to finish what they had started. "Don't celebrate yet," Elena said, her voice cutting through the cheers. "We've pushed them back, but we're not done. Keep your focus. There's still more work to do. Let's make sure the galaxy knows this is only the beginning." General Harris nodded. "Understood, Madam President. We'll finish this once and for all." As the enemy retreated, the humans continued their relentless pursuit. They didn't stop, not for a moment. They fought with the fury of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The galaxy would remember this day, and when the dust finally settled, when the last of the enemy ships had been driven away, Earth stood victorious. The humans had won. The galaxy would never forget the day they realized that humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. Elena stood on the bridge, looking at the vastness of space. She knew this battle was only the first step. The humans had proven their strength, but the galaxy was still full of dangers, and Earth would be ready. "We've shown them what we can do," she said softly. "Now, let's make sure they never forget." The battle had been won. Earth's fleet had emerged victorious, and the enemy was retreating, their forces scattered across the galaxy. But the cost of that victory was heavy. The humans had shown the galaxy their strength, but they had paid a price. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, President Elena Roberts stood in silence, staring at the vastness of space. The victory had been hard-earned, but now, as the dust settled, the reality of what had been lost began to sink in. "We did it," General Harris said, his voice filled with a mix of pride and sadness. "We defeated them, but at what cost?" Elena didn't answer right away. She had seen the reports. Too many ships lost, too many lives. Earth's fleet had been strong, but no force, no matter how powerful, could avoid the toll of war. Soldiers who had fought with bravery and determination would never return. Families would never see their loved ones again. The galaxy had seen Earth's strength, but it had also seen the price of that strength. The war was over, but the pain of the losses would linger for a long time. "Prepare the list of casualties," Elena said, her voice firm despite the sadness in her heart. "We need to honor them. The galaxy needs to know the cost of underestimating humanity." General Harris nodded, turning to give the orders. There was work to do, and it was far from over. But even in victory, there was a heavy burden to carry. As the fleet began its return to Earth, the people on the planet looked up at the sky, knowing that the battle had been won, but also feeling the weight of the loss. The war had taken its toll. Families who had celebrated the news of the victory now mourned the soldiers who would never come home. In cities around the world, memorials were being set up. Walls were covered with the names of the fallen, the faces of soldiers who had given everything for the planet and its future. And as people walked past, they stopped to pay their respects, some with tears in their eyes, others with a quiet determination. The war had been necessary, but it had cost them dearly. Elena visited one of the memorials herself, walking among the rows of names. She stopped at a plaque that read, "In honor of those who gave everything for the survival of humanity." She ran her fingers over the cold metal, remembering the faces of the soldiers she had met, the faces of those who had fought beside her in the war. One of them had been her own brother, David. He had been a fighter, strong and determined. He had stood at her side in the darkest hours, and now he was gone. He had been among the first to volunteer when the call to fight had gone out. He had never hesitated, even knowing the risks. Tears welled in Elena's eyes, but she held them back. She had promised herself she would stay strong, for the people who had lost their loved ones, for the soldiers who had fought for a cause greater than themselves. They couldn't be forgotten. She would make sure of that. It was worth it, Elena whispered to herself. He gave his life for this, for all of us, and he's not forgotten. As the days passed, the reality of the cost of the war became more apparent. The human race had achieved something unimaginable, something that would go down in history as one of the most decisive victories the galaxy had ever seen. But they had also lost something precious. They had lost their innocence. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's strength, but now they would also see their humanity. The humans didn't just fight with power. They fought with heart, with love for their families, their planet, and each other. The cost of the victory had been steep, but the humans had paid it willingly because they knew there was no other choice. "I wish it hadn't come to this," General Harris said during a briefing. "I wish we could have avoided this war, but we couldn't. And now we have to live with the consequences." Elena nodded. "We will, and we will honor those who gave everything. But we also have to remember that this is not the end. We can't let this be the end." The war had ended, but the scars of the battle would remain. The humans had fought with everything they had, and they had won. But now they had to rebuild. They had to heal. "We rebuild together," Elena said, her voice resolute. "And we carry on for those we lost, for those who gave their lives for this victory." As Earth's fleet made its way back to the planet, the people of Earth knew that the war had been won, but they also knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The galaxy would never forget the humans, but the true test of humanity's strength was yet to come. They had fought for survival, and they had won. But now, they had to live with the consequences and move forward together. The war was over. The battle had been fought, and the galaxy had witnessed the strength of humanity. But now, after the smoke cleared and the debris of war scattered in the cold expanse of space, a new chapter was beginning. Earth's victory was not just a moment of triumph. It was the beginning of something much bigger. President Elena Roberts stood on the balcony of the Earth Command Center, overlooking the vast city below. The streets were filled with people. Some were celebrating the victory, others mourning their losses, but all of them knew that Earth had changed forever. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of, and now they would be watching. The world, too, was watching, waiting for the next step. "We did it," Elena whispered to herself, feeling a quiet sense of pride. It was hard to believe. The pain of the war still lingered, but there was hope now. A new hope for the future. Behind her, General Harris stepped up. His uniform was stained, his face tired from the long days of battle, but his eyes were clear, filled with a sense of purpose. "Madam President," he began, his voice steady, "the time has come. We need to rebuild, not just Earth, but the galaxy. We've shown them our strength, but now we need to show them our unity. It's time for us to lead." Elena turned to face him, nodding slowly. She knew he was right. The battle was over, but the true work was just beginning. Earth had won, but now it had to ensure peace in the galaxy, something that had never been easy, but now was necessary more than ever. "We must make sure that what we fought for doesn't slip away," Elena said. "The victory was hard-earned, but the challenge now is to keep this peace." In the days that followed, Earth's leaders began working on a new plan, one that would ensure that the galaxy would never forget the price humanity had paid. They knew that there would always be enemies, but they also knew that there were allies now as well. The galaxy had seen the power of Earth, but they had also seen the compassion of humanity. The humans had not only fought for survival, they had fought for the survival of everyone. "We need to extend a hand to those who need help," General Harris said during a meeting. "The war left its scars, but there are others who are struggling. We can't just leave them behind. We must be the light that leads them." Elena agreed. "We fight for each other. We always have. The galaxy may have underestimated us before, but they won't again. And it's our duty to show them what true strength is, not just in battle, but in peace." As Earth worked to rebuild its cities, its economy, and its people, the humans began reaching out to the civilizations they had once feared. The message was clear: Earth would no longer stand alone. The galaxy would stand with them, or they would help those who needed it, no matter the cost. The first step was to establish a new council, a council where humans would be leaders, not just participants. Earth had earned its place at the table. But this wasn't about power, it was about unity. The galaxy needed to know that humans were not just warriors, but diplomats, healers, and builders. "We're going to help rebuild what was lost," Elena announced to the people. "The galaxy isn't just our battlefield anymore. It's our home, and we will make it a home for everyone." As the weeks went by, Earth's fleet began working with other species to help restore what had been destroyed in the war. They brought supplies, resources, and most importantly, knowledge. The humans had learned much in their fight. They had learned how to work together, how to fight as one. And now, they would share that knowledge with the galaxy. The first new peace talks took place at a neutral station on the edge of the galaxy. Representatives from various species, including those who had once been enemies, gathered in a large, brightly lit hall. It was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for. Elena stood at the front of the hall, addressing the assembly. "The war is over, but the real challenge begins now. We must rebuild what was broken, and we must do it together. We've shown that we can fight for our survival. Now, let's show that we can fight for each other." The room was filled with a quiet sense of agreement. The galaxy had seen the strength of humanity in battle. Now, they would see it in peace. As the peace talks continued, Earth's fleet remained vigilant, but their focus had shifted. No longer just a weapon of war, they were now symbols of hope, strength, and unity. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were not just conquerors. They were survivors, they were builders, and they were willing to work together for a better future. "We've won the battle," Elena said quietly to herself as she stood at the balcony, watching the sun set over Earth's cities. "But the real victory is just beginning." The humans had fought to protect their world, and now they were fighting for the future of the galaxy. It was a new beginning, and this time, they would not fight alone.